months ago, on a Reddit thread talking about the locations of True Detective, I found this story by this user, Moop Moop Meep, really fascinating. And it basically said, "My in-laws are from up north, middle class, nothing fancy. One time they were visiting, they went on a little day trip. They called saying they must have gotten lost because they wound up in a really scary place. They basically started describing something out of Deliverance or True Detective. They were completely convinced they got lost and had wound up in some abandoned area and were completely freaked out because, quote, no one lives like this. Once I figured out where they were in Louisiana, I realized they were not lost. They had just never seen real poverty before. They were driving around stuff I recognized as totally normal. It was eye-opening for both of us. They didn't realize that anyone lived like that, at least in the US. I realized that most of the northern US has no idea what real rural poverty looks like, and they've never been exposed to it. So today I want to talk about the South, demons, and being working class. And specifically, I'm going to analyze the working class Southern Gothic horror novel Seed by Ania Ahlborn. From here on, there will be full spoilers. I will be discussing the entire plot, so just if you want to read it blind, do not watch this video, come back, see you later. For some reason, demonic possession is for rich people. It is for people with large homes that have twisty hallways, abandoned castles, or extra homes that were passed down to them empty for years, or even those who own a house in the first place. In most media portraying a demon entering someone's life, it is very similar across the board. For example, in The Exorcist and The Omen, you see a lot of freshly painted window panes and clean, immaculate homes, clean clothes, and a general order to contrast with the demon bringing in chaos. Insidious, The Night House, Paranormal Activity, Hereditary, and even The Haunting of Hill House are all examples of this. The demon is usually the force of chaos, or the spirit is disrupting someone's regular life who, without the demon, would be completely fine. And this is because in the vast majority of demonic films or books, the main issue is the demon's presence and not the family's material situation. They are believing in the demon, fighting the demon, or succumbing to it, and that is the main crux of the story. The descent into chaos is a central force. The devil is ripping the walls off of the family and destroying everything in its midst. So demons in this usual case are a metaphor for like a mental health issue or inner suffering that wouldn't be so obvious from the outside because the outside looks pretty normal or even pristine. There are a few notable deviations of this trope, arguably Saint Maud, the Babadook, the Dark and the Wicked, arguably the Witch, and Frailty. But those are deviations, and overall, demonic possession is used as a way to destroy an otherwise perfect setting. But I personally think that demonic possession works at its very best when it is used in conjunction with the effects and consequences of poverty. Southern Gothic horror is literally perfect for working class demonic possession stories, but it is a genre that does not have nearly enough of this specific situation. Rather, Southern Gothic is dominated by religious horror, like falling into cults or falling into psychosis, slashers, crime, and social horror, like Children of the Corn, Devil All the Time, Sharp Objects, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Night of the Hunter. Films in the Southern Gothic genre often use actual human depravity and the actual choices of humans rather than some kind of possession by the devil. Now, Southern Gothic is a massive genre spanning across a million books and a million TV shows and movies. I'm going to do a quick overview on what Southern Gothic actually even means before I dig into the story. So I think if you're not from the US or you've never lived in the South, it's hard to really comprehend how massive it is. Southern Gothic centers on a few states in particular. And what is important about these areas is the sheer amount of history. These places are hot and sunny and beautiful and green, but they also carry the weight of slavery, which has cursed the South with a very profound haunting that you can quite literally feel when you're there. There are so many years of generational trauma. So you have the Deep South, which is basically Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. These places are subtropical, so they get very, very hot and humid. Think swampland and voodoo tradition, porch swings, Spanish moss, and a very deep and rich Creole history. Louisiana itself is so fantastic for the Southern Gothic genre because of the very clear image you get of the antebellum South in decay. So you have these areas of ruins of the past, literally covered with moss and greenery. Now nearby, with a similar vibe, but much more foresty and rural, you have areas like Georgia and the Carolinas, where you get more of this like haunted, humid, mossy vibe, but you also have this ridiculous amount of gravestones and these very haunting, big, whispering trees that are just like massive and honestly really scary. Like, I love Savannah. One of the most amazing places I've ever lived. Love it, but it is haunted as fuck. And there's so many gravestones because of the sheer amount of years that the South has been occupied by people. Like, it has so much history that way, and a lot of disorganized history at that. You also have Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, and Arkansas, which are drier than the other states, but just as hot. These have more folk horror religious elements to them. So think fire and brimstone, isolated mountain communities, cryptids, moonshine, and more like haunted forests. Also, empty roads and Ethel Cain. Now, between these and Texas, you have Missouri, which is the border of the South and a mix of both. Texas is its own sort of beast because of the size of it. It is definitively in like the southwestern Southern Gothic genre. So think like Cow Skull, Cattle Ranching Dynasty, Blistering Heat, Valley of Death. But the story that we are focusing in on today is set in Louisiana, which I think is arguably the beating heart of the Southern Gothic genre. The South is so hostile as a physical environment that to live there and to survive there, you either need to know the land and know how to live there, or have a lot of money to cushion and make comfortable your stay. There's a quote in the book we're talking about today that basically says, "Nobody ever leaves the South." And I think that is extending to the fact that even if you do leave the South, if you were ever working class in the South, the intensity of that experience will live in you forever and it will never leave. Louisiana also fits in so perfectly to this genre because of the history of voodoo centered in Louisiana, and it adds another element of the mystic to an already spooky story. Voodoo came to Louisiana with enslaved West Africans, and Louisiana voodoo is its own thing that meshes the local Catholic traditions with the West African traditions. And you can kind of think of it as Catholic with more swag because you're adding on a lot of different deities and also rituals. And the basic idea is that one god does not interfere in daily life, but that spirits do. And you can connect with these spirits through rituals like dancing and music and even snakes. Examples of specific voodoo rituals are like gree dolls, which are basically small dolls that can ward off negative energy, but also like potions with herbs that do things like bring love or money or luck. The most famous voodoo queen was Marie Laveau, and she lived in the 1800s in Louisiana. And I actually despise the rendition of her in American Horror Story because that is not kind of the person she was at all. But she was so powerful, like in this area, and especially for a woman, a Black woman at the time. Many like giant businessmen and lawyers would consult her before financial or business decisions. Like, she was a really big deal. So in Louisiana history, voodoo has super deep roots and it's been there since the very beginning. And if it does anything for this story we're talking about today, is it sets a baseline for something beyond our physical reality. So our story starts with Jack Winter, and he is a working class father with a wife and 2 young girls. The book basically begins with you being described the situation surrounding their like kind of dilapidated family car that they need a new one, but they can't afford it, and how the car is on its last legs. Then you're immediately thrust into a car accident where Jack accidentally flips the car in the road when he sees a pair of eyes. So these eyes are the eyes of the demon or the devil that haunts this story. They're described as silvery and floating in the darkness, and they're often accompanied by a very large, very severe grin. Jack, his wife Amy, 6-year-old Charlie, and 10-year-old Abigail all survive the crash and they're completely fine. Charlie is immediately possessed by this demon in the road, and you know that she's possessed immediately because she isn't just like unusually calm after the crash, but she also disappears for like 10 minutes in the road and they can't find her. And when she does reappear, she corners her father and says to him, "I saw it, Daddy. I saw it before the lights went out. I saw it just like you." So you find out that these eyes are eyes of a demon that has haunted Jack his entire life. Jack grew up in a very run-down trailer in rural Georgia. He had super neglectful parents, and a big part of it was that they were basically too busy to take care of him. And behind this trailer property, Jack discovered a graveyard where he basically became obsessed with going and visiting it. Among the headstones of this graveyard, he first encountered the eyes. They were black eyes watching him from the trees. The demon or spirit or whatever attached to Jack after a while of him visiting this graveyard. He actually ran away from home at age 12 with this demon on his back. He's done things like really crazy as well in his adult life. Like he tattooed this giant beast with horns and leathery black skin on his back in like kind of a fugue state. Jack running away from home at such a young age and never being found by his parents or never being caught by anybody is one in many, many situations where the demon shows up at the same time that a consequence of poverty will show up. Jack does not have enough supervision or a family that really takes care of him, so he spends most of his time in a graveyard. The isolation and neglect is happening at the same time that he picks it up. And after he kind of picks it up, he starts behaving in really strange and unpredictable and violent ways. Poverty can cause children to behave in ways that they can't really control, much like this metaphor of possession. Children who experience high levels of social neglect early in life show lower electricity activity in the brain, comparable to non-neglected children who have trouble with attention and learning. These children also show decreased brain metabolism and poorer connections among different parts of the brain, essential for cognitive, emotional, and social competence. So Jack's parents are afraid of his behavior, so they take him to a psychologist, and they spend all of their savings doing this. But when Jack describes seeing shadow creatures on the wall, the psychologist basically blames it on passing cars on the highway and that it is a trick of the lights. This is so similar to, first of all, how so much of the medical system works for working class and impoverished people, dismissive and inaccessible. And then also how hopeless it can feel when you can only afford one appointment. And if they don't believe you, you're basically out of luck. So the morning after the accident, Charlie, Jack's 6-year-old daughter, wakes up with a horrible, horrible fever. She's 103 degrees, and her parents, Jack and Amy, force her into an ice cold bath. She fights against it, and she's like crying and screaming and fighting it against it in a way that is really hard to hear in the book. Like, it's super graphic, honestly, really heartbreaking. They can't afford to take her to the doctor every time she gets sick, so they think that they're doing the best that they can, but you should never ever put a child with a fever into a cold bath. That is like not good. This is just another consequence of lack of resources and how that can cause suffering. The bath is the catalyst for things to start to turn really strange and uncanny. Charlie starts hearing scratching on the walls, and so does the rest of the family, and she says there's someone living in the house. One time, her sister Abby discovers a convulsing lump under Charlie's bed, like the sheets, and she turns around to see Charlie behind the door staring at her. So Jack has a working class job, but he also kind of moonlights as a person in a rock band because he played in a band that was super popular a long time ago, and he drives to New Orleans to play in his band and leaves his family alone for a night. So when he's gone, a massive, very heavy antique table flips entirely so its legs are sticking up in the air when Amy's home alone with the kids. It also took Jack, him, and like 3 other dudes to get the table inside the house in the first place, so Amy didn't do this. After this, Charlie basically ramps up and she's most definitely possessed. She's manipulating her mom and dad, she's like lying in a really aggressive way, and Jack becomes horrified and obsessed with the idea that he passed this curse on to her. This is the very central theme of the novel. Jack believes the demon's curse is his own seed that he's passed to her. Out of fear and guilt and shame, he does not disclose this to anybody. In this way, the demon possession acts metaphorically in a couple of ways. Him hiding it is a direct manifestation of the shame he has for his upbringing, coming from the quote, dirty South. And secondly, it acts as a vessel for the effects of poverty to reach the next generation and the shame and guilt a parent might feel for that when truly there is nothing that Jack can do. The demon also makes whatever child it is possessing into like this creepy, overbearing, like violent creature. Just like Jack's parents were afraid of him when he was possessed, they're afraid of Charlie. When you're dealing with poverty and a lack of resources, raising a child, the weight of that is so much more intense and difficult. It is exponentially harder than when you have enough resources. In poverty, you are forced to make impossible decisions like whether to buy food or to fill a necessary prescription. The demon inhabiting Charlie and Jack at age 6 specifically is a really dark way to portray how children can kind of cause and be a signifier of stress and burden and anxiety onto these struggling parents by transforming them into actual monsters and actual scary figures, almost looming around their parents like a cloud of burden. There is a quote in the book that says, "At what point do parents back away from something they love more than their own lives, put up their hands, and admit defeat?" One of these reasons can be this struggle. So Jack actually did murder his parents when he was 12 before he ran away. It is described in the book like, when the police arrived, there was no sign of a break-in. The folks were torn to pieces. It looked like what they did to criminals long time back, when they tied a rope to each limb and a rope to each horse, sending them in different directions. Jack massacred his family and ripped them apart, then ran away, never to be caught or found. This is a really heavy metaphor for like leaving the shame of his upbringing behind him, because people, like when they come from impossible situations of extreme poverty, often feel like they need to like kill the person that they were while living in that situation, because poverty does so much more than make it scarce to have resources. It changes the way that your brain functions. It can literally stop you from becoming the person that you could be, because you could be squashed by the weight of it and the stress and the burden of that. Research shows that the impact of poverty is significant and long-lasting. Low-income children are at risk for a range of cognitive, emotional, and health-related problems, including detrimental effects on executive functioning, academic achievement, social-emotional functioning, developmental delays, behavioral problems, asthma, nutrition, and higher rates of pneumonia. Psychological research also shows that living in poverty is associated with differences in structural and functional brain development in children in areas related to cognitive processes that are critical for learning, communication, social emotional processing, memory, and language. Jack notices something like this with the people around him and says, "The craziest of them all seem nice and normal and happy, until some vital part of their brain fries like bad wiring." So with these actual documented side effects that poverty brings, it makes so much sense that Jack feels like he brought this demon with him from childhood, and it is like a curse that he couldn't help but pass to his own child. He keeps this inherited demon a secret from Amy because it is so fundamentally shameful for him. Poverty makes you guilty before you're even born. If you know firsthand, poverty isn't just physical circumstances, but it puts you in situations where you have no choice but the wrong one. Jack says he would never tell her, meaning Amy, because he'd never be allowed. He's talking about the demon who is fundamentally in charge. So one morning when Charlie's leaving for school, she tells her mother Amy, "Don't be worried, you still have Abigail." So Amy starts to believe Charlie might have schizophrenia, and Jack agrees to find a psychiatrist. But at the appointment, it goes really poorly because Jack doesn't disclose any mental health issues he's had in his family. And the demon in his head tells him, "This was never your family, it's always been mine." The demon here is acting as a representation of how this trauma has basically restricted him from even believing a doctor could help because of his past with doctors. So at home, Jack confronts the demon directly through Charlie. So they're at the kitchen table and Charlie's chair slides back and balances impossibly on one leg while she grins at him. And the demon says to Jack that he will take his family. At this point, Charlie is most likely dead inside of this corpse that's being reanimated by the demon. Charlie reveals the name of the demon is Mr. Scratch and he lives in the closet. And when she describes it to him, he recognizes that it is exactly the creature that he had throughout his childhood, who sat on the edge of the bed watching him sleep. This is such a direct representation of how anxiety and mental health issues could haunt you. There are so many paintings of sleep paralysis, of demons right beside the bed looking at people. It is a great representation of anxiety and fear. There's also this reoccurring idea in the novel that the family is hesitating to believe in God. It's not very direct, but there is an insinuation that believing in God would not be a favorable outcome for the family. Even he knew that if demons could exist, it meant there was a real evil in the world. And if you believed in the devil, somewhere in the deepest fibers of your being, you had to believe in God. He knew firsthand that the devil wasn't real. He'd seen it with his own two eyes, but he'd never seen God. He'd never felt God. He'd never been helped by God. For all he knew, wickedness was strong enough to exist in a world without good. The idea of a deep and extreme hopelessness is very, very present when discussing a book about themes of poverty in the American South. There is no reason for the type of suffering and neglect to exist, but it is a case of bad policies and government neglect that has caused totally unfair situations to manifest and not be fixed. If God were to exist in this novel, it would literally clash with the unfairness that Jack and his family have experienced firsthand, and it really wouldn't make sense. I think this novel is pursuing the idea of Gnosticism personally, but that's another rabbit hole that I'm not going to get into right now. In the novel, when Charlie goes back to school, the possession and the incidents are just ramping up and getting worse. She kills the family dog by running it into the road during a game of quote-unquote hide and seek, and she gets kicked out of school. Jack breaks down and decides he's going to go to his hometown in Georgia and figure out what to do to save his family. He thinks that he's doing the valiant thing, and in his eyes he is, but he is leaving his family alone with the demon who is violent. He really isn't thinking straight, especially the fact that he's told nobody about it, and this all is hinting to this could be a mental health issue that has gone unprescribed, unmedicated, with no resources to fix it, passed down to a child. It's very apparent that's what this could be. So on his trip, he's thinking about his childhood and he's having these flashbacks of a time when his mother got burned by a grease fire that seemed to coincide with him getting irritated at her, and she poured water on it and burned herself really badly. She didn't know that water makes a grease fire worse. He also remembers that he was found standing motionless in parking lots miles from home. So when he arrives to where he grew up in that trailer, it is in complete disarray and ruins, except for his bedroom, which doesn't have a speck of dust on it and is exactly how he left it as a child. This is a really eerie image, and to me, it really does signify childhood innocence being destroyed in a kind of contrasting opposite way. Also, the graveyard where he spent most of his childhood is disappeared and vanished. This is obviously due to like the creature or even Jack producing a hallucination, but it is, to me, like, this is a bit of a stretch, but I think it is also a good metaphor for how poverty can disconnect you from where you grew up and your heritage and your ancestors, because who is keeping track of these things? Who is keeping all the photos? Very unlikely that they are. So when Jack ran away from his home, his parents were found dismembered, as we talked about, but there were boards nailed from the outside of Jack's bedroom, almost like they were trying to keep him in. So they were very scared of him. And when he left the house covered in blood as a child, he was picked up by a trucker, and the rest is history. He has no memories of this happening, but he knows that he did it. So while Jack is away looking for answers and trying to help, Amy sees the demon in the backyard, crouching in the road. And even worse, Charlie has lured her sister Abby into the forest, talking about a possum. Jack has a premonition that something bad's going to happen because a mysterious trucker type, the same reappearing character that will reappear again, says to him, "I've never seen anybody outrun the devil." Jack is scared. He drives very fast back to the house. So when he gets to the house, there are cops there and a detective. He talks to them, gives them a picture of the girls. The detective and the cops do not comb the woods outside the house. They're very unhelpful, honestly. Like, they're not directly unhelpful, but they don't find the girls. When Jack goes to find them, they are literally in the woods outside of their house. The cops would have found them there. This in itself, with a lot of other examples of this, is indicative of how crime is not taken as seriously when you're working class, especially in this situation. They're just not helpful. So one of the creepiest visuals of the whole book is when Jack finds Charlie in the forest without her sister, and she looks blue and gray, and she looks like a corpse. He sees Charlie, demands Abby's release, but he looks up to see Abby hanging 15 feet in the air with her intestines wrapped around her neck. Really horrifying visual. From here, it is like a drawn out battle where Jack is like trying to kill the demon, but it's obviously very hard because it's like his adorable 6-year-old daughter who he loves, and it's like transforming into cute again and like manipulating him, but it eventually kills him, stabs him, and she whispers to Jack, "Because I can." And as Jack passes away, the graveyard from his childhood appears around him. To me, this is the most comforting place for him, because even though that's very sad, that's like where he found the most comfort in his life, was a graveyard outside of his house. But for it to reappear in his final moments is like almost a relief, like a break from the constant anxiety. And I think Charlie's final quote means something very, very simple and direct. And it is like, "Because I can" means this really wouldn't happen to another type of family. Just like Jack, Charlie escapes, is picked up by a trucker, and basically restarts the same cycle of trauma. State troopers find Jack, Abby, and they find Amy dismembered in the kitchen. And that is where the novel ends. It is a very bloody ending and very sad. Abby and Amy's deaths are so violent, they're hard to ignore, like thematically. You could almost stretch it to the idea that Amy was losing her mind over the issues with Charlie and the estrangement from her daughter, made so much worse by Charlie's school not being able to handle her, also indicative of lack of resources. But for Abby, being hanged by your guts is like reminding me of being killed for your needs. Yes, when you're struggling, food is hard, but also everything else. Like, it isn't just food. It's like basic needs are very difficult. Braces, clothes, there's just so many things that you need as a child. So I found throughout the entire novel, the demon and demonic possession coincided with a lot of things that poverty also would cause in a family situation. Like, yes, shame, forgetfulness, and disassociation, but also scarcity and panic and a lack or loss of childhood. The demon also gets in the way of so many normal things, like enjoying their lives or like intimacy, like it interrupts, much like struggling interrupts things. The one time Amy wants to like relax and watch a movie, the demon interrupts it. It does interrupt everything, much like poverty interrupts everything. There's also this cyclical idea of like dismembering your parents, like the child of a struggling family needs more than these parents can give. It's represented in this horrible clash of like love and also need. They describe it in the novel like Jack feasted on the flesh of his parents. It is also continuously repeated how happy and like full of love Jack, Amy, Abby, and Charlie are as a family. The parents have a deep like history and they have like respect and love for each other. There is no reason why they should have died in their 30s, and there's no reason why this family shouldn't have been completely fine. But this demonic interference like splits their future in half and ends everything. That is the same way that one crisis, whether it is mental health, loss of housing, a storm that destroys your house in a way that you can't repair it, or prolonged untreated illness can destroy something perfectly great, perfectly fine. And that is what makes a novel like this so tragic, but actually like work really well thematically, because it isn't all misery whatsoever. It is a tragedy. The demon isn't a real physical demon. It is a pressure on Jack's shoulder, a constant reminder of his very difficult reality that doesn't seem to have a good outcome. So that was my analysis of my first Ania Ahlborn book. I love a female horror author because like the way that they write families is just like so tragic. I think female horror authors know how to write a family tragedy like in a way that really hurts your feelings, honestly. I think next I'm going to read Brother by her because like she's a great author. It's almost like hard to describe how well she talks about the South and like even the gas stations and the setting. It's like it's really accurate and fantastic. That's the biggest part that's hard about talking about books on a video like this, because it's hard to describe how well a setting is done, because you can like show images of it, but how it's described is like the best part of the book. Honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of like demon possession and like demonic movies and TV and stuff and books, because I'm more of a fan of like crime horror or like psychological horror. And that is because on a personal level, I don't really believe in like a binary of good and evil. So it's hard for me to just like think of a demon and be like, oh, it's evil. It's all the way evil. So it's not super interesting to me, but this book was very weird and scary, very eerie. So I really liked it. The book I'm currently reading is Between Two Fires, and it's so good that like I'm savoring it. Like it's genuinely okay. There's this creature, there's this monster. It's like a medieval horror book. There's not really spoilers, but there's this monster in the book that is like a sea creature. It's like a giant snake with spines on its back, but it has one human hand sticking out of its tail, a full human hand. That is the creepiest shit I've ever heard in my life. Such good monster design, just so good. I'm also really a fan of like medieval stuff. I love medieval stuff. So I recommend that book. I'm kind of trudging through The Hounding. It's a little too folky for my taste, honestly. Like it's like folk horror, and that can be super effective, but like sometimes it's like too whimsical for me, and I'm like, okay, I'm kind of tired of this. But it's well written, so I'm gonna finish it. And then for movies and TV, I finished Widow's Bay, more like Widow's Peak. Like that is incredible. I think my favorite episode was the one where she was reading the like recipe book. That was a masterclass. And I was really excited to watch Widow's Bay because the director of like a lot of the episodes was also a director of a lot of episodes of Atlanta, which I've talked about now 4 fucking times on this channel, but he's like so good at making a tense horror scene. He's also really good at portraying social horror, and it was just as good as I thought, like really fucking good. We're in a tiny bit of a horror drought kind of now, like off the back of Obsession and Backrooms and stuff. Like Camp Miasma's coming out soon. I'm not going to AMC for it because I go to Cinemark or Alamo on Tuesday. I just, more than $20 for a movie ticket, I'm not paying it. I'm not paying it. I understand people have AMC stubs or like AMC VIP where you can go to the movies a bunch of times. Still, I can't really fuck with the prices of the drinks. Like, why is a drink from AMC the price of a matcha? No. I'm in LA. I go to the Los Feliz Theater. $12.50 for a movie. That's the way I like it. Also, there's a burrito place next door that I really like. Transplant alert because it's like a chain burrito restaurant, but I don't give a fuck. I really like it. I like the fish burrito. But anyway, I go to the Los Feliz. I go to Cinemark because I pay $11.99 a month for the Cinemark VIP, basically like the version of Cinemark subscription, but it's $11.99 a month. And with this subscription, you get like, this is not sponsored, by the way. I'm just trying to be, I'm a cheap person when it comes to going to the movie because I hate movie inflation. So like you pay that much a month, but you get every ticket for like $13. No, I think it's actually $11. Yeah, it's like 11 or 13, not more than $13. Plus a free ticket every month. That's amazing. But also you get like 25% off concessions or something. And the ads are only 15 minutes, not 30 at the beginning of the film. So that's my go-to theater is Cinemark. That's like so unpopular. Nobody goes there, which is literally the best because they have really good seats. It's empty as fuck. Nobody's there, whatever. I love it. The one I go to is like from the 80s and they have this like big mirror disco wall and it's like really cool. But then if I'm not going to go to Cinemark, I go to the Alamo on Tuesday when it's half price because then it's worth it to me. And I like the Alamo because nobody's talking. I cannot believe how fucked up my makeup got during this video. Fuck. My makeup got so messed up during this video. My lipstick looks crazy. Nobody noticed that. Anyway, the whole point of my story is they only released Camp Miasma through AMC for like, I think it's LA and New York. And I'm like, I gotta wait for 3 weeks until it comes out at Cinemark or the Alamo because I'm not. AMC is $18 a ticket. For why? It's not even good seats. If you live in LA and you go to AMC, like, what do you do for work? Because what the hell? Whatever. Okay, that's the end of my rant. What I'm meaning to say is I haven't been going to the movies. I did see Spider-Man. I'm such a fucking grouch. Like, I didn't like it. Okay, I had fun. Like, whatever. Why did they... There's so many things about it that are funny, but like, the number one thing for me is like, why is there a fucking flock camp? Why is there surveillance state? Why is Spider-Man surveillance stating everybody? But also, why was the Scorpion character a furry? Because that was a furry tail, if I've ever seen one. Like, furry physics, furry tail. Seriously, I know a furry's touch when I see one. Yeah. Same person who put the wolf in boxers in Bad Guys made the furry tail in Spider-Man. Okay, anyway, thank you for watching. Love you so much. Hope you're watching this at night to get the full effect because I'm kind of fucking creeped out. I'm by myself. Thank you for 10,000 subscribers. Peace and love.